Are you listening? Damn.
How's everybody doing today? Everybody having a good time?
I'm having
Hey,
a
looks
good
like
time.
Sonny, that's a man. That's a man right there that knows how to have a good time. Chain out, shades on, cigar blowing.
Everything.
Ooh,
Let's do
that
it.
boy looked like he done won the Pee Wee Championship right now.
You know
Oh
it.
man, we're gonna have a good one in for you guys today. Why you guys look so sad down there at the bottom?
Remember what I said in the
offseason?
offseason? I said
nobody would care what you got to say at the bottom. It doesn't matter what you got to say. No. But it's gonna be a jam-packed show. We got Sonny smoking that KC, that Kansas City, that Tyreek Hill pack. I hope it's good, man. I hope you last throughout the show because I heard that pack kind of strong. I missed out on it last week. We got Ace Boogie here. We got Tony the man. Tony the dude who told you that they were definitely going to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to get into all of that today. But what should we start with, guys? What should we start with? Should we start with something interesting?
Let's
Should
do
we
the
start
super
with
chat.
something? Huh?
Let's do the super chat, and then we.
Oh yeah, let's go.
I suddenly feel a little better about the Browns defense after watching Sunday Night Football. I don't know why, but that was an embarrassment for both teams.
All right, here's what everybody has to get into their heads. Kansas City's just good at offense. They're just good at offense. They're gonna put up points. If it's the 85 Bears, they're probably putting up 28 to 30 points. That's just what's gonna happen, right? If they have everything, they're firing on all cylinders. Patrick Mahomes is out here throwing footballs, just run it, touchdown. There's no good way to defend that. If there was, somebody would have figured out a long time ago. So this is what everybody has to get into their head. If the Kansas City Chiefs put up 30 on you, doesn't mean your defense sucks. It just means the Kansas City Chiefs happen to you. All the rules lean into the favor of the offense in an offensive era of football. And they're one of the most high-powered units we have ever seen. You add all that together, that's going to be a pretty good offense. And you can try to make some adjustments here or there, but it's going to be what it's going to be. We got another super chat from. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
Well, no, I was gonna add to that point about Patrick Mahomes. Because YouTube gave me this. You get into this YouTube vortex. They had a video out this week, the top plays of Patrick Mahomes, the top 25 plays. What struck me about Mahomes, and you saw this, against in that Ravens game, right? What I think what you're getting at there, Quincy, is Mahomes does things. The reason why Mahomes is so good is because as a quarterback, he's actually bad as a quarterback, right? Meaning that he does things that quarterbacks should not do, right? If a regular quarterback did the things that Patrick Mahomes does, he would definitely not get away with them. You cannot teach your defense to play against a quarterback who is playing as unorthodox a style as Pat Mahomes does. And that I think is what makes him so special. You watch his top plays. They're all incredibly stupid plays for a quarterback to make, but he makes them work.
Yeah, he's going to ruin a whole generation of young quarterbacks. Like how Steph Curry kind of ruined a whole generation of point guards because everybody want to do the logo. Everybody, or Odell, when he got that one-handed catch, ruined a generation of wide receivers because now everybody want to do the one-handed catch. It's going to be a generation of quarterbacks that going to roll to their right and think they could just fire that thing to their left. And let me tell you, if you're not Patrick Mahomes, if you're not an alien, it's going to get intercepted in the NFL at least. Any more super chats we want to get to before we get to our first game?
Yeah, we had to. Abdul says, told you our fans were the difference, Q. They look like an extra left tackle to the flock. LOL.
What I told y'all about Andy Villanueva is that he wouldn't be that great on the right side because you can't just flip him like that.
That is true.
Turns out when you put him on the left side, he's a competent tackle. Not great, but competent because he's at his natural position.
And then the last one before we go do the games, Eric Spicer. Shout out to you. Thank you for the donation. One QB in first in the NFL in completion percentage and second in yards per attempt, while 1 through 3 4-quarter interceptions on consecutive plays. wanna help tell us who's who?
I really wish you would have used a different stat other than completion percentage because you know how I feel about completion percentage. Like I'm not the happiest about a high completion percentage, even though it's not an inherently bad or good stat. But yeah, it's just I pointed out the irony on Twitter that last week part of the argument that me and Ace got into after this game was, hey, Baker has a history of fourth quarter interceptions. I had pointed out. And Baker in 2020, though, his most recent year, only had thrown 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter, the same as Patrick Mahomes. And it just so happens that this week, of all weeks, Joe Burrow throws.
It was that kind
not
of week.
1, not 2, but 3 fourth quarter interceptions straight up back to back to back to back. Now, 2 of those interceptions were bad. I think the third one, it is what it is on that third one, right? Like it's a tip ball kind of thing at the line. You could say maybe he shouldn't have tried to throw the ball there, but you're down by like 17 points on the road. You're going to want your quarterback to be aggressive there. So I'm not going to just spend the whole time on the Bengals recap roasting them. I have actual football notes this week. But yeah, I just wanted to point that irony out. That Baker was getting harassed about them fourth quarter interceptions this week by what Ace Boogie, who I do believe to be a Bengals fan. And it's just unfortunate that lined up for you there, ain't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Shout out to Steeler Nation for the nation. Shout out to Nandan from Canadian 2.79. With Steelers injuries, can Bengals win? Look, we'll talk about that game, and we're gonna talk about that game next week. Next Thursday. But let's start with since you open it up with the Bengals. Let's go with the Bengals.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll go ahead and get it out of the way. Honestly, the theme of this game for me was Joe Burrow's 3 interceptions, right? And I'm not gonna run away from it. I'm not gonna make excuses. Like I've seen a lot of Bengals fans. I'm just gonna be honest, Bengals Nation. I'm speaking to y'all. I've seen a lot of people pointing the finger at anybody but Joe Burrow for this game. They've talked about Zach Taylor's play calling. They're talking about the offensive line. They should have taken more deep shots and things like that. But at the end of the day, Joe Burrow has to be held accountable for these turnovers, especially when they happen. And I'm just not buying the whole that Zach Taylor is this and that. Because on the very first interception, I was watching the game. I'm streaming it. Joe Burrow audibled out of whatever Zach Taylor called and proceeded to throw an interception to Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith comes and takes it. He ends up with a pick 6. And then on the second one, I'm watching it. And maybe this one is on Taylor a bit because it was a play call that they tried earlier in the game, several points throughout the game, and it just wasn't working. I think it was like a 10-yard dig or something like that, some kind of play, but the corner just jumped the route because it was pretty predictable that it was coming. They ran the play several times earlier, and the corner just made a great play on the ball. As Quincy said, the third one, if you're going to put that on the offensive line, I could actually kind of see that. Like Quincy said, it was kind of tipped at the line. It was intercepted. But at the end of the day, when you're on the road, after the first half that you had in that game with 3 possessions, no points, literally nothing, you had a field goal, and all of that. That is the last thing that you can do in that situation, especially with a player like Andy Dalton out of the game. You got a rookie quarterback in Justin Fields. Your defense played lights out the entire game. It's got to be on Joe. I'm sorry. For me, it has to be Joe because when you look at the turnover differential, and the set that I have is from 2020, so it's somewhat dated, but still relevant. For the last 5 regular seasons, the teams that have won the defensive turnover battle have won the game 76.8% of the time. I don't want to hear and get excuses about, those plays didn't affect the game. It was the play calling. It was this and that. At the end of the day, it was those turnovers from Joe Burrow for the most part that lost them that game. Now, there are several other things that we can talk about in this game as well. One of the things that I felt like was a recurring theme, not only from me, even some of the Bears analysts, a lot of people were slamming this Bears defense. After that game, I have to say that the Bears defense needs a lot more credit than they're really getting. Obviously, we've seen the players that are on that team. We saw Roquan Smith completely just take over that game with the pick 6, a sack as well, I think he had. those were game-changing plays. Khalil Mack ended up with a sack. That Bears defense is better than people kind of gave them credit for. And I feel like a lot of it was overreactions from week one, but they showed up and played like the Bears defense that we've kind of known them to have that reputation for. And so don't sell the Bears defense too short. They played a hell of a game. I think the game plan that they played against the Bengals was a smart one. They sat on all of the routes. They didn't really play anything deep because they knew with Joe Burrow being on this pitch count, he probably wasn't going to open himself up to deep shots to be susceptible to hits. So they had a hell of a game plan that they came in with. And the other things that I want to talk about as well is, yes, I think this is, for me, I think I said it during the stream. This was Joe Burrow's worst performance, in my opinion. I think that was his worst performance of his career that he's had. I think that this is something that he's definitely going to have to learn from and come back from. The Bengals were still in the game, even despite the 3 interceptions. I like that he showed the moxie to be able to come back, have 2 straight passing touchdowns, and still put his team in position to potentially win a game on the road. And that's why I think that he will bounce back from that. But let's get into that because there was a lot of talk during the game about that aspect too. If you weren't watching, the Bengals end up tying up the game. Justin Fields ends up throwing a interception, not a pick six, to Logan Wilson. And it's looking like the Bengals are going to come back. All they have to do is pretty much stop this Bears team from getting a first down. And the Bengals and Joe Burrow get the ball back with about a little under 3 minutes left and a timeout to possibly steal a win. And so what ends up happening is the Bengals defense, as great as they played the entire game, and I mean, they played amazing. They really, if you truly dissect this game, they really only gave up 7 points, and that was with turnovers on down from the offense. That was poor field position that they just gave the Bears and all kind of things. But they come up short at the end of the game. And when you look at it on the surface, it looks like, hey, Trey Hendrickson is supposed to make that tackle. I heard that as an excuse as well for instead of people mentioning Burrow. If Trey Hendrickson makes that tackle on Justin Fields on that scramble on third down, they get the ball back. And that very well may be true. But when you really look at that play and you look at it in slow motion, I'm not sure what Lou Anarumo was thinking on that play. They called a 2-man defense. All of the guys, I honestly believe Chicago, I tip my hat to them. I think whoever the offensive coordinator was, I don't think that play was ever intended to be a pass. I think what it was it was supposed to set up and look like a pass and have players just open up the middle and allow Justin Fields to take off and get the first down. And that's honestly what ended up happening. The crazy thing is with people slamming Trey Hendrickson and stuff like that, he makes a hell of a play to even be in position to do that. There was no quarterback spy. There was literally no one there in between Fields and the first down. And the fact that he was able to do that spin move to come off of his tackle and end up actually getting his hands on Fields was amazing because there was literally no spy for Fields. So that was one of the head-scratching moments for me at the end of the game, especially after Fields had threw an interception. He struggled for the most part that game. You had to think at that point in the game that he wasn't going to throw it and risk throwing another interception in his own territory, and they just didn't play it like that. Now, we can talk about the offensive line and Zach Taylor's play calling because I know you guys want to talk about that. The offensive line, they struggled in this game. I think with the stunt plays, that was something that really hurt them in this game, especially with some of those Bear defenders. I think Khalil Mack hit them with one. I think he put Jonah in a spin cycle on one of them. And I also believe that they were able to also get the veteran Riley Reif. They just really struggled with that. There was pressure in Burrow's face constantly. But there's a lot of big things that are being made of this offensive line because a lot of people are just looking at the total sacks in the last 2 games. And you guys know I was a proponent of them drafting Penei Sewell. But here's my thing, because a lot of people are talking about, it's 9 sacks and he's on pace to get sacked 70 times. All of these sacks have not been on the offensive line. And that's what I take away from this. When you rewatch the film, when you look at what's happening, I think Zach Taylor, because he came out and said, all of those sacks aren't on the offensive line, and people were kind of ripping him to shreds because they're just like, 10 sacks on Burrow. There's no way you didn't draft Penei. You should have did this and that. The first game, as I sat here and told you guys last week, yes, the Bengals ended up giving up 5 sacks. 2 of those sacks were on Trey Hopkins, the only lineman. The rest of them were by Drew Sample. They were by the running backs. They were by other skill positions that happened to allow those defenders to come in. Now, in this game, I do feel like there were about 2, maybe 3 sacks that were on the offensive line. But there are 2 in particular that Taylor referenced in his press conference that he is right about. One of them, because they asked him, is it just the offensive line thing? And he's like, no, it really isn't. There's like 8 guys that are responsible for these sacks. One of them, if you watch it, is Joe Mixon. The guy comes right in, and this was a proponent of them not having Giovanni Bernard. That was one of the downgrades, is the pass blocking. Joe Mixon allows the edge rusher or the free rusher to come through and sack Joe Burrow. Another one is just a blown play. It's supposed to be a wide receiver screen, and neither Mike Thomas nor Jamar Chase run the screen. And we all know on the screen, you let the defense in and he gets hit again because it's a busted play. So when we talk about the offensive line and we talk about these, I'm not saying that their protection plan for Burrow is good, because it hasn't been. They've got to fix the free rusher kind of aspect. And that was one of the things that I touched on with Willie Anderson the other night. We talked about it. And he said that when it comes to free rushers and stuff like that, the linemen come up, say who they have, and then it's up to the quarterback and the running backs in the backfield, if they see something like that where it's uneven, for them to make the adjustments. And that hasn't been being done. So I just am not a proponent of strictly blaming it on the offensive line. It's a full effort. Joe Mixon has to be better in pass protection. They've got a game plan better in pass protection, because you can't go empty and not leave anyone in to help on these plays as far as blocking when they're sending free rushers. So yes, Zach Taylor does have to leave in some protection and maybe leave 6 or 7 in on there to help with blocking instead of just leaving no one there. So I'm not going to completely let Taylor off the hook. And I'll talk about his play calling. The Zach Taylor play calling in this game was extremely interesting, because he had 30 passes in this game and only 20 runs, in comparison to him having 27 passes and 36 runs in week 1. And it's kind of seemed like anytime that Joe Burrow has gotten hit, they immediately start running the ball. They immediately start doing these things where they're having short passes and this thing. And there were rumors about the Joe Burrow pitch count coming out, and I've confirmed that. Zim has talked about it. He heard that from a player, that they are not expecting Joe Burrow to throw more than 30 passes this season. Willie Anderson said that he heard something similar to that Mike Brown is pretty much saying you cannot get Joe Burrow hit. And to me, you have to look at that when you look at his game plan. I mean, the man's job is literally on the line. If Joe Burrow gets hit, that literally is his job. And so that's why you're seeing short passes. That's why you're seeing a whole bunch of random sporadic runs to Joe Mixon, even with the game on the line. We saw that week 1. But a lot of people are saying, hey, throw deep shots. And I get it. But we didn't hear that week 1. And the Bengals took the same amount of deep shots against the Vikings, which was 3, that they did in this game. Now, you could argue maybe he should have called them a little bit earlier. And, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have hinted at, hey, we needed to be more aggressive. But how aggressive can Taylor really be, given the circumstances of Joe Burrow, that offensive line, how many hits are happening on him? If he takes deeper shots, that means that there's more time for Joe Burrow to get hurt. So you got to think about it from that perspective, right? This isn't just a week 1, week 2 thing. Although these games are important, they have to think about this guy being the franchise, because if Joe Burrow goes down, then it's over. It's probably over for Taylor. It's over for the Bengals season. Everything is completely done. But the one thing I will say is I did feel like he should have given Joe Mixon more runs on the edge. I don't think that they fed Joe enough. I think that he needs to get Jamar Chase more involved. Chase has a big catch in the first half, and then you don't even hear from him until T. Higgins goes out momentarily with a small injury and comes back. He's got to get this team together, and he does have to adjust that plan, because we can't see anything as bland as we saw last week. Now, the one thing I do want to tip my hat to, and I think was the most positive thing in this game, was the Bengals defense. Right now, they're ranking 7th in DVOA, and this unit was just – I was honestly at a loss for words with what they were doing. Now, they were playing against Andy Dalton. They were playing against, Justin Fields in his first NFL game. But that was something that worried me. When I talked about it going into this game, I was worried about how they would defend Justin Fields, because the Bengals have struggled defensively in their history against Kyler Murray, against Lamar Jackson. And it just so happens that play ends up being one that ends up beating this defense. But I think outside of that, they played a hell of a game. Trey Hendrickson, 1.5 sacks. He had a forced fumble, and a lot of people pointed to that too. They were like, hey, instead of Logan Wilson scooping that one, he should have just jumped on it. And that's I understand. That is a valid point. If he would have jumped on it, the Bengals would have had it right in their end zone. But it doesn't take away from the great plays that Trey Hendrickson made, that Logan Wilson in that game completely took over. In coverage, he was amazing. This guy just made so many plays. He makes the pick at the end of the game. Logan Wilson, I definitely think, is a big surprise for me. Not only him, Akeem Davis-Gaither, these young linebackers that I used to question for the longest, because it seemed like ever since we lost Vontaze Burfict, and I'm talking about prime Burfict, not once he fell off and just became a penalty machine. We hadn't had a linebacker that you could really depend on since that. And I think Logan Wilson can be that. You talk about the run defense, they did a great job shutting down Dalvin Cook, shutting down David Montgomery this week, extremely stout. And then the other thing that was crazy is the Bengals currently right now are tied for 5th in the NFL with 3 sacks per game. They didn't come early in the game, and I was wondering, where's this rush going to come from? It ended up being DJ Reader. It ended up being Sam Hubbard. It ended up being, Trey Hendrickson to make these plays that were really game-changing. And so it was an amazing feat for me that the Bengals defense really, when you really look at it in the scope of things, really only gave up 7 points the entire game. And then on special teams, I would say Evan McPherson continues to prove his value with the 50-plus yard field goals. You don't have to worry about Fat Randy missing like he did in that game that we saw Sunday, but then Fat Randy ends up getting it. And then at the end of the day, you're still 1-1, tied for the division. But that was a huge opportunity that you let slip away, especially coming into this week with the Steelers. You could have had potentially a game lead, but now you don't have that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump in real quick, do my to say my notes about this game. I've got to see the recap. So if there's some things that aren't in the direct TV recap, by the way, NFL, you have the worst services of any professional sport.
Literally the worst.
It's the worst. You're the best one, but you're the worst services of all of them. Like all your services are garbage. You're outsourcing to people. They're not even good. It's just terrible. It's
trash.
Just complacency.
Trash.
Right? I saw T. Higgins fumble. I think maybe a helmet popped it out. It looked pretty weird to me. Yeah. It almost looked like from the angle that he just let go of the football. But I think a helmet popped it out. And as far as the Bengals go, my biggest note in that game is I think everybody was playing pretty terrible around Joe Burrow for the first 3 quarters. And then in the 4th quarter, Joe Burrow went full unadulterated Ben Roethlisberger, the whole experience, right? Where Ben will throw 3 interceptions and you're like, oh my goodness, it can't get any worse. But then Ben almost brings you back. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe. That is exactly in 1 quarter what Ben did against the Browns in the wild card game. To a T. He had that whole game right there. But
uncalled for, but I'll allow it.
I'm not gonna make you catch a stray here, Tony. You know what I mean? You're catching enough bullets. Another thing is
just got one.
Last week,
just one. I'll keep it count.
Last week I was pretty vocal about Andy Dalton. Don't know why he's in there. I know why Andy Dalton's in there. Saw Justin Fields out there. Not ready.
Matt Nagy was doing the Conor McGregor walk back to the locker room he won. Matt Nagy's the big winner of the week.
I know people were like, "Oh man, he made that one run to seal it." Andy Dalton was out there hoofing it, boy.
He was.
He had 30 yards. He tore his
looking like Daniel Jones.
He ran, but he had 30 yards, and I felt like if Andy Dalton was in there, maybe it doesn't even get close again, because. Justin Fields, not ready. Now, of course, he's probably going to tear up the Browns because we letting everybody tear us up right now. We let Davis Mills score a touchdown on us. We'll get to the Browns in a minute. But, yeah, I can see Matt Nagy's point. I apologize, Matt Nagy, for saying you were addicted to mediocrity. No, mediocrity was all you had on Sunday. Justin Fields is not there yet. But, yeah, that's my big thing, right? Joe Burrow did the Big Ben in the 4th quarter. And then Andy Dalton, that's not a stray. That is absolutely true that he did the Big Ben.
Still,
I mean, come on.
That's 3 now. Keep going.
In front of 50 million. The difference is, though, and this is fortunate that he didn't do this on national TV, because nobody's talking about this. If Joe Burrow would have did that on Sunday Night Football, oof, let me tell you from experience, brother, you don't want your quarterback to have a bad game on national TV because that becomes. I remember Cam Newton, his rookie year, had a bad game on national TV. Everybody was talking about Cam Newton like his rookie year was garbage. Yeah, 2 bad games in his rookie year. Like it was that. That's just, you don't want that to happen. Good thing that happened on a 1 o'clock when nobody was watching, because when you do something like that on national TV, it's kind of rough. Don't you know about that, Tony? But 50 million people on Nielsen, according to Nielsen, 50 million people on NBC, highest ranked wild card game in like 10 years on the records. In an era where TV rankings are going down, people came to watch that game, and he did that to him. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that's really all the notes I have on here. Sonny and Tony, you guys have any quick notes before we go to the next game?
Tony, before you go, let's do 2 super chats and then you go.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, of course.
Man, what a game on Sunday night. I was at the bank, and that was the loudest Ravens game I've ever been to.
You're watching the game at the bank, though, boy? Nice. You're watching the game at the bank. I didn't know. I'm gonna tell your boss you out here watching at your job, because I assume that's the only reason you was at the bank at a Sunday at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, by the bank is their stadium.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, banks normally close on Sundays, but you know.
Professor Chaos, thank you for the donation, $20. Shout out to you, man. I think the Bengals could take a lesson from the Steelers in not living in your fears, because if you are so worried about Burrow getting hurt, you're probably not going to win. And I'm not saying put him in danger either. Okay, Tony, go ahead, man.
Yeah, and I think he's referencing the 2008 season for the Steelers. The Steelers had just a horrific offensive line that year. You know, one of the things people forget about that year, like, here's how bad the offensive line was. People remember the 2008 Ben Roethlisberger coming back, right? The great drive, the throw to Santonio in the corner of the end zone touchdown. People forget about that drive. The first play of that entire drive, holding on the first play, set them back to 1st and 20 from like the 10-yard line or something. That offensive line that year was very, very bad. But, you know, the thing about this game, obviously, this is a comeback down to earth game for Joe Burrow, right? And I think for Bengals fans, like, this was a very, this was a sobering Sunday for a couple fan bases here.
It's nice to have y'all back.
Yeah. We the crash down to earth, not as fun as the ascent. I'll tell you that.
No.
The thing with Joe Burrow, right? I looked at the 3 interceptions that he threw. The first one looked like just a complete he never saw Roquan. Absolutely never saw him. Right? It's a simple cover 2 that they're sitting in, and he just never saw Roquan Smith. A rookie mistake. He'll have to learn from it. It's something you can't have, because that was such an easy interception. The second one I thought was far more interesting. Now, Ace, it's funny you talk about him sitting on the route. He absolutely sat on the route. Now, I'm not sure if that was, if we don't have we always, because like Quincy said, the NFL sucks. Their services suck. We still don't have all 22 for any of these football games. You got to go through Twitter and basically pirating the all 22 at this point if you want to get it.
Football at this point. Yeah.
Exactly. So all I've seen is the TV angle. I can't tell if it's cover 2 or cover 4. I think it might be cover 2. And so in that way, I think Burrow reads it as cover 4, and that's why he thinks the hitch is going to be there, because in cover 4, the guy's going to play a little more, or is going to respect the deep ball. If that was cover 4 though, and the Bears just were not respecting Burrow's deep ball whatsoever, that's something to watch for going forward. I want to see the all 22 of that, because like you said, the corner sat on that route the entire way, had no respect whatsoever for Joe Burrow's deep ball. Now maybe he had a safety over top, in which case it's a misread on Joe Burrow. If it's not a misread on Joe Burrow, that does say something about how defenses are going to play him going forward. Something to watch for in coming weeks. If teams are going to say, "Hey, Burrow can't beat us deep," sit on everything underneath. Let me tell you something.
That might have been what they were doing there, because on that Jamar Chase touchdown, you noticed that safety was in way closer than he probably should have been there.
Yeah.
Trying to get Jamar Chase there, so it might have been that.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. As a team who I know a lot about teams sitting on all the routes. As I watched Ben Roethlisberger and this team last year, it's not good. You got to beat them deep. You got to start attacking down the field. So we'll see if Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor make that adjustment. And then my final note here, and Quincy already touched on it. I mean, the real winner of this football game is Matt Nagy, right? Because no one, if Andy Dalton is healthy, right? Whenever Andy Dalton's healthy again, no one, and I mean no one, is going to be saying, "Hey, what are you doing? You got to be playing Justin Fields. You got to put Justin Fields out there." Justin Fields had one good play in this game, and that was obviously that 3rd down run that he had. It's a tough call. I said this last week. You got to have. It's going to be a hard time. You can't play man defense against quarterbacks like this, because when you got your guys turning their eyes away from the quarterback, it leaves him an easy running lane. Yeah, Hendrickson probably needs to make that play, but it's a tough ask for that defense, and it was the one good play he made in this game. But that's really all the notes I have. Is obviously this is a very sobering Sunday here on AFC North Talk.
Yeah, coming back to earth Sunday. Steelers Nation, shout out to you. Thank you for the donation. This Sunday, Bengals will go back to their classical ways and will be ready to lay the hammer on Burrow and give him a total of 10 sacks. Oh my God. Okay, let me go real quick here. By the way, guys,
you know what? I hope Joe Burrow lights up the Steelers now just because of that one super chat. Just that classic Pittsburgh Steeler arrogance just hit me, and oh God, it just reminded me of how you guys are. Yeah, I'm rooting for the Bengals this week, so the resident Bengal haters gonna be rooting for the Bengals this week.
So let me
listen. The tiger can't change his stripes.
Let me be very short and sweet here because the guys cover most, and I'm here dealing with a sore throat. That defense for the Bengals looks very, very legit. The more I see them, the more. A guy that I told Ace that I love pre-draft, Logan Wilson. Last year, obviously, he didn't do anything, but this year it looks like he's coming back together. I love him as a linebacker. His instincts, I love everything about Logan Wilson. The defense in general looks good. I know the Bears are not like a power offense, but still, I mean, they did it now back-to-back weeks. And to be honest, I mean, last week, think about it, they clutched. They did what the Ravens did last week, right, with the fumble. So I think Cincinnati going forward, offensively, they need to figure this offense out. They have weapons, right? This year, Cincinnati doesn't have the injury bug yet. Hopefully, they don't get it. But every year we usually talk about Cincinnati getting hurt here and there. How we have been talking about the Ravens this year, and they haven't had that injury bug. So that's good. Offensively, line is intact. They have the 3 receivers. They have Mixon there. Mixon got 20 carries. That's pretty good. A guy that I mean, he was the only carrier. A guy that I think they should sprinkle in a little bit more is Chris Evans.
Yes.
On the blocking side,
Captain America himself.
He can receive. He can be a good third. He can be essentially Geno, right? He can be that guy. And I don't know why you guys keep putting Pierre on there, but I don't know. Maybe they're seeing something in practice that I don't see, right? But other than that, I mean, 3 interceptions. It's hard to come back from that. You guys almost did. I mean, you lost by 3. But, man, I mean, that tells you a lot about your defense. If you do back-to-back picks in the second half and you only lost by 3, your defense played a hell of a game.
And Justin Fields is also
that is true.
Yeah, and you know, it helps. It helps.
Now, it might have been the Bengals defense that helped that look.
Yeah,
like
sure.
There were some things that the Bengals defense was definitely forcing. There were some things that Justin Fields was forcing on himself, which is just not great football.
Not
you know.
Tony, before the ad, read the super chat. And then
of course. AJNM $5 super chat. Appreciate that. Appreciate everyone giving their super chats today. He writes in to say, "Go Steelers! Here we go. Congrats to the Ravens and Browns on your win." Appreciate that. Listen, very humble from Steeler fans this week.
Somebody is trying to prepare themselves for further disappointment. That's what I like to see out of Steeler fans, man. I love y'all for that. Yeah, go ahead, Tony. Tell us about our balls.
Of course, yeah. Before we keep going here, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor over at Manscaped. Fantasy football is here. Lamar Jackson is fast, but you know who's faster? Your girl running out of the bedroom when she sees that man turf growing around your end zone. Keep that field trimmed with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming just launched the new Performance Package 4.0. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. But you have to use our promo code AFC North Talk. That's AFC North Talk, all one word. This will help tame that Tyreek Hill cheetah you have in your pants. If you groom below the waist, the Performance Package 4.0 is an essential purchase. And good news for our international listeners, their life-changing products are now available in Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and even Singapore. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, their Crop Preserver ball deodorant, their Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag. First pick of this year's fantasy draft is the new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. Their star trimmer is here to guide you on a season for the ages and trim your body, balls, and even your A-gap. The Lawnmower 4.0 Also has a 4,000K LED spotlight, which allows you to be accurate as Bill Belichick with a challenge flag. The performance package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker. Watch it split through your nose and ears hairs like Young Hoku splits wickets. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor, 360-degree rotor dual blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those sensitive holes. And don't forget to use their Crop Preserver ball deodorant and their Crop Reviver to help your little bench warmers be on their A game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. So you can get all that for 20% off and free shipping, but you got to use our promo code AFC North Talk at manscaped.com.
You know, I'm on the road this week, and I got to take care of my little bench warmers too. You know, I make sure I bring that travel bag with me whenever possible. But, you know, speaking of old wrinkly balls that need to be taken care of just a little bit better, we're going to talk about Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Now, I know there is a lot to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. It was actually a pretty competitive game. I was watching it. I was watching the Browns game. But Tony, give us your thoughts, your initial thoughts of what happened there on Sunday. What's your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, well, you know, this was my biggest takeaway is like I said, the fall back down to earth is not as fun as decline. I mean, you know, I said during the offseason, right? I asked the question, hey, what would it look like if this defense, you know, didn't play elite football, right? What, you know, what if they fell off a little bit? And I got to tell you guys, I don't like the answer to that question. Okay, because this defense, look, they didn't play well on Sunday. Now, I'm not going to discount. You know, they lost some players here, obviously, right? I mean, you lose when you lose. You lost. They lost T.J. Watt, like, you know, 16 plays into the game. They lost Alualu. They came into this game without Hayden and Bush, right? And so a lot of Steeler fans will just tell you, like, well, the math is simple, right? If you don't have those 4 players, you can't play good defense, right? Yeah. Look, I don't necessarily buy into that though, because like Quincy said, look, this was a competitive game into the fourth quarter, and the defense didn't play well, but they weren't horrible either. Look, the stats are gaudy in this game. They threw for 400 yards. Derek Carr did. Wow. But there were a lot of empty yards in this football game. You know, the Steelers got 2 big red zone stops. The Vegas kicked 4 field goals in this game. Everybody knows you don't win games kicking field goals, right? But the Steelers, what they lacked in this game, and we'll talk about another defense later on in the show, is that they didn't make the plays down the stretch, right? I mean, you know, it's one thing to make plays in the first quarter, and this team did a great job of holding the Raiders to field goals in the first half. But down the stretch of this football game, they needed to make some plays. And if you guys will indulge me for a second, I want to talk about the most important play to me of this football game. One that Steeler fans have been, you know, clamoring about all on Twitter. Was it Minka's fault on the Henry Ruggs touchdown, right? This is a gigantic moment in the game. I'm going to share my screen here. Let me see if I can get this to work. Yeah. Because I want to talk about this play. So, by the way, shout out here, Mark Schofield on Twitter does a great job breaking these things down. He actually has access to the All 22 before anybody else, and he actually has shared this play on Twitter. Thank you, Mark. So we can finally put to rest, was it Minka's responsibility on the long touchdown? This is a huge play in the game. Okay, this is 3rd and 10 late in the football game, fourth quarter. Steelers have just cut the lead 16-14. If they get off the field here, this is 3rd and 10. If they get off the field here, they give that offense a chance to go down and potentially take the lead in the fourth quarter in front of their home fans. Now, the Steelers are going to be in cover 1 here, right? So this is a pretty easy look. You know, Minka's going to be your cover 1. They're going to be in cover 1 man. You got man
Steve,
here,
or you got thief or robber right now.
Yeah. So what we're going to see here? Oh, sorry. This is Norwood. He's blitzing. So you're going to have man here. This Norwood's going to blitz, and then actually Cam Sutton's going to come across here, and play. So this is going to be cover 1 man with kind of a zone concept here. So if you imagine, you have the one, so you have like the 1-2-3 idea, right? So basically Cam Sutton's idea is he has the 1. So if these two switch, right, the Joker call or the banjo call, I should say, basically when 2 becomes the 1, that becomes Cam Sutton's responsibility. Yeah. So the question here is, okay, so the route concept that they're running, this is a deep post against what is an out route, okay? So what is the cover 1 safety supposed to do here, right? Well, of course, the cover 1 safety is supposed to cover the deep post, right? He has to maintain the deep responsibility here, and he has to cover Henry Ruggs. But the problem is, this is Darren Waller, and this is James Pierre. And the question about this play is not, look, I'll play it for you.
Hall of Fame Pierre?
That's right. And the question here, the question here is whether or not what Minkah did was correct, because he played Waller, right? So if you watch Waller as he comes out, okay, Minka's going to turn his hips. Yeah, Minka's going to turn his hips right here, right? You'll see he turns his hips towards Waller's side. And by the way, he's shaded to Waller's side this entire time. The problem here, and so the argument here is that this was what Minkah was doing all day. He made the right call here. The coaches told him to play Waller. This is what he was doing all day. They were in a kind of high-low bracket all day with Waller. This is his responsibility. This is what he had to do. So letting Ruggs go deep was what he was supposed to do, according to the coaches. This is one of those plays like with PFF that I get mad about. Look, we'll never know. We'll never know what Minkah was told by the coaching staff. But his responsibility on this play absolutely has to be the deep center of the field here, right? I mean, it is absolutely the deep safety's responsibility to cover deep. Watch Ahkello Witherspoon at the release here, right? Witherspoon is already outside shade of Henry Ruggs, right? So he's going to force Ruggs to the center of the field. Why? Because he thinks he has safety help over the top, right? You watch him, and he's going to open his hips to the inside, right? So he doesn't want Henry Ruggs to get outside of him. That's because he thinks he has safety help over the top. Minkah's responsibility has to be the deep here. Now, I understand that James Pierre on Darren Waller is a mismatch for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Absolutely it is. But at the same time, Ahkello Witherspoon is also a mismatch for Henry Ruggs. So the problem I hear with the Steelers, whether this is Minkah's responsibility, whether Minkah screwed this play up or the coaches screwed up, this is absolutely a screw up. The Steelers coach staff had to have a call here to tell Minkah, look, if we're in a situation, right, where on either side of the field, you have two what are essentially mismatches for us, you have to play it straight. You can't shade to Waller's side because, yes, I'll agree with you. I'll agree with Minkah if he's saying, look, the reason why I went here is because at this stem of the route, like at the stem of Waller's route, it looks like he's about to stack him. Right. And so basically, but what I mean by that is Waller's going to be on top of Pierre. And so the ball is going to be thrown out this way. And if Minkah doesn't go there, then this isn't, we're not talking about a 61-yard Henry Ruggs touchdown. We're talking about a 61-yard Darren Waller touchdown. I'll agree. But the problem with that is that he's got to play this center field and he's got to try and drive the ball at the middle. Otherwise, you end up with what you end up with, which is a Henry Ruggs touchdown. Now, we say all of that. I want to point out one other thing real quick about this play because, we argue about all these things. We argue, should it have been Minkah's responsibility? Should it not? Check this out. This should have never actually happened. The play of the day here is made by Brian Edwards. Okay, because look, when Derek Carr releases the football here, look where Trey Norwood is. Trey Norwood is literally a yard away from Derek Carr. Now, this is a blitz from the boundary here, and what the Steelers are going to do is they're going to get the Raiders to shift their protection left by overloading a blitz here. Hayward's going to attack the A gap to the center's left, separating him from the guard and the tackle on the right side, and then isolating these two players with having Ingram go to the A gap and Wormley attack the B gap, right? And you'll see that as I start the play, right? You'll see, okay, so now you've got the running back thinking that there's an overload coming this way. It is not. Cam Sutton bailed out. And now you've got Norwood on a free rush to the quarterback, an absolute free rush. The Steelers do a very good job of doing this kind of thing, scheming their guys to free rushers. But remember, I said Norwood was 1 yard away from making this play. Watch Brian Edwards. And I don't know if this was intentional or not. I have messaged two film guys to watch this play and asked if Edwards did this intentionally. Watch, this is Edwards right here.
Oh yeah, he does a little.
I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it is literally enough to cause this play to be the 61-yard touchdown. If this were 1 yard, again, if he doesn't get caught up there and there's 1 yard of difference, this is very likely potentially a sack or a throwaway from Derek Carr. We talk about football as being a game of inches, and we'll talk about it in that Baltimore game because, where the Steelers did not make this play, there's another team we'll talk about today that absolutely did. And this is the difference, right? So we can talk about the TJ Watt injury. We can talk about all these injuries, Steeler fans, and I will agree with you on all of them. But the Steelers had a chance to make a play here. They did not make it, and that ends up being the difference in this football game. Now, I will say this about the Steelers. I don't think it was all bad. This was a sobering game and not a damning one. Offensively, there's a lot of people who were like freaking out about the offense. I thought the offense was better this week. It's not good enough. Of course, it's not good enough. It is young. It's still growing. I think the one thing that they're doing really well is they're attacking down the field. My opinion of Canada's offense. Let's get to that. I think Canada's offense right now, look, this whole they're not committed to the run. It's a vicious cycle. They can't get going early. The run blocking isn't good enough. They get behind early, so they start throwing more. And it's just a vicious cycle that they continue to play themselves into. Teams are going to play everything, close. They're playing single high, cover one or cover three all day long against this team. The way to attack that is to attack down the field. I'll give Canada credit for this. They are at least attacking the outside. They're attacking down the football field. Ben Roethlisberger does not have the lowest air yards in the league anymore. In fact, I saw a stat today. Ben Roethlisberger, I believe, is in the top 12 of intended air yard plays of more than 15 yards or more. Canada understands the way that this team has to attack defenses. Now it's about putting it all together. It's about executing at this point. It's early. The signs for this team offensively are not great, but they are getting better.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going quick into my thoughts on this game, and I had actually some notes on that play there before you had put it up there because I didn't get to see the game film of it. I'm happy you put that up there because I didn't know what exactly had happened there watching from the TV angle. It looked like to me on my first initial thought that Minka got caught gambling a little bit. Like, I get the instinct there though, right? It's Derek Carr going to Darren Waller on a 3rd and 10. Like, it's a pretty good bet to make there. He probably tried to hedge it, see if he could hop something, make a play there, and then, got a play made on him. Hey, in NFL and football, shit happens, and that is a key shit happens play right there.
Yeah.
Well,
but
my
can't be though, because it's too important. It's too important to be a shit happens play.
It sucks when it happens, but because he's probably won you guys a game off of gambling on an instinct, or the coaches trying to tell him to do something a little bit unconventional. You know what I mean? It happens here and it happens there. My other notes are about Ben. He's got to stop some of these throws that he's doing here. And the throws I'm talking about are like when he's under duress and he's getting hit like 2 times and he still thinks it's 2007. So he's going to whip that boy downfield and it just ain't there no more, man. Like, I don't think he has been depleted to the point to where he can't play his style quarterback anymore. But there is starting to be smaller limits to that, right? Because some of these balls, I'm like, what the hell are you doing out here? Like, he's being almost – he's proven he's Carson Wentz's daddy, right? Because Carson Wentz is a much worse version of this. But sometimes you just be wondering with Ben, like, do you want to have a turnover right now? Because some of these throws are just like, bro, you just got hit 3 times. Throw it out of bounds. Now I'm gonna throw that thing deep.
You're talking about the ones
numbers.
You're talking about the ones where he ad-libs now, right? Where it's like old Ben Roethlisberger running around and throwing on the run and stuff.
Yeah, he's trying to ad-lib, but Antonio Brown ain't there no more. He ain't catching that ball.
I have a hot take. I think he should do more of it. I think this offense needs more of it. And I know that's a hot take, and I don't want to derail. I think we need more of it.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in a different show.
There's some areas in which I feel like he's doing the right thing. There's other areas where the ball is not even landing near a receiver. I'm like, bro, why did you even throw that in bounds? Yeah. You know what I mean? He has to do. That's the thing I'm not seeing with Ben. Ben used to be much better at delineating when those situations were there and when they're not. And now it's just like, hey, man, I'm here. I'm used to throwing it, so I'm going to throw it. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like the tact is there like it used to be. On that one interception, Tony, I don't know if you saw the film on this where it was towards Deontay Johnson. Did he quit on that route?
Yeah, Deontay. So this is
quit on the route with the ball.
Yeah, Deontay stopped running. Yeah, Deontay stopped running on that
with
play,
the ball in the air.
I don't know if the ball was in the air yet. But he stopped running. He stopped running.
I saw him quit on the route. Like, did he quit on the route, or was that supposed to be for Juju? I don't know what happened on that play, but that just looked bad. And I don't know if that's Ben or if that's on the wide receivers. It looked like a group effort of just there. Run game, right? The only highlights I've seen of Najee Harris all year has been him getting the ball in the passing game. It still hasn't been there where you can give him carries and touches to where he's going to elevate that run game to where it needs to be. He's not bad by any means, but when you're only getting the most out of him when he's a receiver, so it tells you a lot about how that offensive line's run blocking right now.
There was real quick, Quincy. There was a play, his best run, the 14-yard run Najee had in this play. It was because one of the offensive linemen for the Steelers was so bad at his block that the defensive lineman ran past Najee Harris and opened up a gigantic hole 14 yards. Steelers fans will know. I wish I had the tape on it. Steelers fans will know what I'm talking about. I think it was Dotson.
The defense ain't got through so.
I think it was Dotson. I mean, the defensive tackle goes flying by Najee Harris, and he was like just a 14-yard run.
Defensive tackle got through so fast he thought it was a damn slip screen. He was like, "Oh man!" But yeah, that was a whole. Yeah, see, my notes are: why did Ben throw that? Why did Ben throw that? Ben got to just stop throwing stuff up for the lows. And then did Ben quit on that? Oh yeah, and one note on Joe Schobert here, just being incredibly Joe Schobert, which is just like he is so incredibly average. But then since he's average and since he's been average on terrible teams, he looks like he's better than he is. So people will talk themselves into letting him do things that he should not do. And the Steelers should not let him be in coverage as much as he is because he got smoked a lot. I remember seeing 93 out there getting toasted. I was like, who is 93? Oh, yeah, that looks familiar. That's Joe Schobert out there that Browns fans tried to tell me was worth $10 million 2 years ago. So, yeah, Joe Schobert doing Joe Schobert things there, which is why I was kind of harsh on people when they're saying it's going to add a game to the Steelers win total because they traded for Joe Schobert there. So that's just a win on the chat right there.
He is better than Robert Spillane. I'll give you that. I mean, he's better than Robert Spillane.
Goodness gracious, he better be better than Robert Spillane, right? Robert Spillane ain't getting paid.
Robert Spillane has to play because Bush is out. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. Here's one thing Robert Spillane is not going to ever be traded for. You traded for Joe Schobert, which means that there is value in that asset. Robert Spillane will be picked up off waivers if he switches teams. He will not be traded for. We got a super chat here from Abdul. Time to look for Ben's replacement. Anyone? I don't think that's fair yet. I don't think Ben's that bad.
I've seen a lot of people hating on Ben. I don't think Ben's the problem right now with the offense, to be quite honest. Like I killed him for his accuracy last week, and there was some deep ball accuracy stuff this week that you would like to see a little better. But these are in the margins. The balls are on time and on target. You'd like the ball placement to be better as far as like receivers having to contort to get the deep ball, but. I think the offensive line is a bigger issue, and I think that this team getting started early in football games is a bigger issue. Ben's willingness to throw over the middle of the field is a bigger issue. But I think as far as like
willingness to just throw for the fucking
I'm telling you, listen, I think this offense I would love to see. We haven't seen enough out of structure in this offense. It is what has been missing. The time to throw. Everything about the Steelers offense is so in structure. That's why Ben's time to throw is so low. I think this offense could use a little more out of structure. Clearly, he's not on the same page with those wide receivers yet when it comes to that out of structure stuff. So it's very ugly. But I would look. I know Steelers fans, everyone's going to disagree with me. I don't care. I think we need to see more of it.
Especially, Tony.
I think we do too.
Especially, I see it. Especially, I see it a lot with Deontay Johnson, right? Deontay Johnson and Big Ben. I feel like there's at least 3 or 4 plays per game. They're like Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, it's not Antonio
and then
Brown.
He's waiting for him to go deep, or he's going deep, and Big Ben's going for. And I'm like, because it might happen with other receivers, but I feel like with Deontay, it's blatantly like it happens a lot. And Deontay obviously is your leading receiver currently, but
I'm good this year. Even for being on.
No, I'm not saying he's bad, but I'm just saying how is that not clean? It's not like Deontay Johnson and Big Ben are in game 2 of the entire career. Like they played together last year. The big thing with Big Ben is as the year goes by, can he sustain the play that he is currently at, right? As the year goes by. Now, they have been trying to throw the ball a little bit lesser. Although he had 40 attempts. Najee Harris has not been able to go to get on track, which I think a couple of us here said, like, with that O-line, Najee Harris, it's only so much a running back can do when the O-line is just not good and creating space for them. I will say this. One thing that happened last week was Tony told me, watch the Steelers defense. Y'all gave up 27 points to the Raiders.
26.
This is bad timing this week, man.
and he said, like, you can't do that against the Raiders. I just watched y'all give up the same amount of points through 4 quarters in your stadium. Like, you guys were in the home opener? Home opener for? Oh no, home opener.
Can I make a point here?
Make a point. You guys are
because I do think this is a good point. I think and what I want to double down on this point is that last week I made the point that what happened against Buffalo was Mike Tomlin, one of Mike Tomlin's best coaching performances of all time. I'm doubling down on that. I mean, I am absolutely doubling after what we saw this week. I am tripling down on that take. What Mike Tomlin did last week with this defense was nothing short of spectacular, especially considering, by the way, that Buffalo went out and threw 35 on Miami. So, you can mock my Steelers defense, and that's fine. They played bad this week.
I'm not even. However, I actually thought they were solid. I thought they were solid with the injuries. I'm just saying, somebody here said you cannot give up all those points against the Raiders defense. And oh my God, look, what big play and over there. You
This
get
is-
Henry Ruggs getting the big play, touchdown. All I'm
Oh
saying
man,
is
yeah,
we
he
did
did
it on
hit
the
on the big
road.
play stuff too last week. Huh?
Yeah, we did it on the road. You guys did it in your home opener. So also I'm gonna say Steelers fan. So I'm gonna say I'm not gonna put more salt in that wound. So I'm gonna say it's kind of sad. Home opener. Gave us the same kind of points.
I know we have Manscaped as a sponsor, but this also might be the TurboTax version of AFC North Talk because we got receipts for days. Ace, real quick before we move on to the next game, you have any quick thoughts about the Steelers?
I do. I mean, I feel like I was one of the only people on this panel. I'm not gonna say I was the only one, but I kind of questioned this Steelers offense from a number of standpoints. Right? I talked about Ben Roethlisberger. We talked about the offensive line. We talked about the new offensive coordinator. I didn't feel like they were going to hit the ground running, and that has been kind of a struggle for them, right? So I think the offense itself, hopefully they can improve that and look to definitely help Ben out with the blocking. That's one of the things that I kind of took away from just watching the condensed version of this game is that Ben got hit a lot. He didn't get sacked a lot, but he got hit a lot. He stepped up into a lot of hits from that defense. And I don't know where Solomon Thomas has been, but I don't know what happened in that game where Solomon Thomas was able to wreak some havoc there. The other thing that I think stuck out to me, yes, they gave up some plays on defense. And that was one of the things that I talked about too, right? But rightfully so, they were missing Joe Hayden, right? But when they don't have Joe Hayden there, it potentially causes some issues for them. Now, I did see them make a lot of tackles. I don't feel like it was a situation where they were just getting burnt all over the place like the Bengals have seen Eli Apple getting drugged these last 2 weeks, but definitely something to take a look at. You talk about Spillane. The one thing in this game that I felt like the Steelers kind of made some mistakes with was that they kind of played undisciplined. What was Spillane thinking to take a headshot on a quarterback in a game? Like, you got to know that that's going to be a flag. You got to know that that's going to be a flag. I mean, I understand that he wanted to get a big hit in, but with the way that the NFL tries to protect quarterbacks and things like that, that ends up, hurting them with the penalty. You talk about Highsmith, he jumps off sides, which I'm not going to jump on him for that, but just the timing of it was not optimal. And then while Ben is taking these hits, Trey Turner decides to get ejected for spitting on a guy when obviously his backup isn't going to be as good as him. So for me, from that standpoint, the Steelers just have to play a little bit smarter and just make smarter plays so that they don't take themselves out of the game with stuff like that, especially when you had guys like Alex Leatherwood getting injured as well in that game and being able to take advantage of it. Shout out to Hunter Renfrow, though, because I think we kind of undersold him a bit.
Was good.
Hunter Renfrow,
he is good.
Hunter Renfrow
he got a little
is
Cooper Kupp in him.
Good.
Yeah,
pretty good. But yeah, I think I was somewhat shocked in this game. I'm not gonna lie. When I was watching the Bengals game, I was just like, man, Steelers are gonna win this one. They're gonna come back. And Derek Carr went from mid to complete loud. Derek Carr, I don't know what happened, but he was that loud pack. He was that loud pack that game.
But interesting thoughts there on the Steelers. All right, we're done trolling Tony. Let's get to the winners.
Oh, can we talk about the spitting
right?
incident real quick? I want to mention real quick about the spitting incident because this was a weird. I don't know if you guys saw Tomlin's press conference after the game. He vehemently defended Trey Turner after him. I don't know if he saw Trey Turner spit on the guy. Now, according to Trey Turner and Tomlin, I mean, again, after the game, defended him vehemently, which was very strange to watch. According to Turner, the guy spit on him first, so he spit back. It's like a stupid thing, right? It's like, just don't do that. It was a weird. It's been a weird thing because now even in today's press conference, it wasn't exactly like Tomlin went hard at Turner for that moment for getting ejected. It's still this kind of like, he probably shouldn't have done it, but
Yeah, one of them things. Just one of them things. But now let's talk about some winning teams. We're going to start with the Cleveland Browns. I'm just going to give my condensed thoughts because, it was a win, but you were on Browns Twitter this week. You want to know it was a win because people were upset about a number of things about this one. First things first, Baker Mayfield. I love Baker Mayfield to death because Baker Mayfield is one of the few quarterbacks that will actually go out there and throw a legit block. He does this multiple times a game. He will try to throw a legit block. He will try to actually tackle people, but I need Baker Mayfield to look behind him and look at the dude who's backing him up. That's Case Keenum. We not winning no games with Case Keenum, Baker. All right. You cannot be out here with one arm. Did you see this play? He had one arm, right? After he had dislocated his arm going for a tackle, which stop doing that. Do to Lamar. When Lamar threw that pick six, he let that boy go right by him because he knew we ain't winning no game with bootleg me back there. Like, it ain't going to happen with number 2 trying to be like me, but not me there in the game. No, he let the dude run by. Baker need to let that happen because you can come back from a 7-point deficit. You can't come back with Case Keenum. But he, with one arm left, decides he's going to full-on block Terrence Mitchell. And good on Baker Mayfield. He pancaked Terrence Mitchell into the ground. But you got one arm, Baker. Let that man go past you. Like, you can't, we cannot, we have seen what Case Keenum looks like. We're not winning football games with Case Keenum. Baker, whether you think Baker is a franchise guy, whether you think he's top 10 or anything above that, or you think he's Andy Dalton, you know damn well he's much better than Case Keenum. And you winning games with Baker. You're not winning, especially with all your wide receivers out, you're not winning games with Case Keenum in there. And speaking of Case Keenum, I had an issue with the play calling on offense. Look, I know everybody's jumping on this high completion percentage for Baker Mayfield, and it's not like his yards per attempt are ridiculously low, even though it's padded because he took a ton of shots during the Chiefs game. And he hasn't had a ton of attempts either. But, you know, I'm not in love with Baker throwing screen passes. Like, that's a complete waste of Baker Mayfield. Let that man go downfield. If he got 65 to 70% completion, but he's attacking downfield, I feel much better about his ability to dominate a football game than him at 80% throwing tight end screens all game. Look, it works every once in a while, but you can't fall in love with it. So I would love to see them move away from that and let Baker do what he does best, which is attack downfield. So I want to see that out the offense. But the offense, otherwise, they were kind of bored. And you could tell by, like, they were, like, in the fourth quarter when they needed a drive, they were able to push and get the run game going. Otherwise, it was less, like, lackadaisical out there. Just a pretty piss-poor effort by the offense. But they're talented enough that they can get away with it against a team like the Texans. And then on defense, everybody wants to fire Joe Woods. Everybody's mad at whoever. The problem with the Browns defense isn't that they're busting coverages. It isn't that they're not communicating. It isn't even that the personnel is not good. It's that any quarterback worth their salt that sees how the Browns line up knows exactly where everybody's going to be on replay. Why? Because they're running base. They're running a base defense right here. They're not disguising base. They're just running base. Now, this might be because they got a bunch of new players on there and Joe Woods is being ultra conservative. I don't want to get blown up here. But it's at the point now to where, baby, you just got to risk that. You got to disguise this up a little bit because Tyrod Taylor looked like Patrick Mahomes, but even better out there against them. And it's not because Tyrod was doing anything. Yeah, it's not because Tyrod was doing anything special. There's one thing that I don't think a lot of people know about Tyrod. Maybe Raven fans might know this. Browns fans might know this. If you not had Tyrod around, you're not going to know what he's good at. But Tyrod's extremely good against zone. That's what Tyrod's best at, right? Zone coverage. You put Tyrod in zone coverage, and he can decipher it. He's going to eat you up. That's what he has done his entire career. He's very good. He's underrated in that aspect. And the fact that the game plan was we're going to run base zone on Tyrod Taylor, and we think that's going to be successful, was idiotic. You were getting torn up on third down. It was like a video game glitch. You remember when, like, halfback stretch was just like an automatic 15 yards in Madden 3 years ago? That's what the Browns look like on third down. It looks like an exploit. The stuff needs to be patched. It is too easy to know where the Browns are going to be. And when that is the case against a veteran quarterback, they're just going to throw to where they know it's going to be open. That's what's happening. It doesn't matter. Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, they're getting pressure. They're getting there. The ball's out in 2 seconds because they know exactly where to go on the offensive side of the ball. It's real easy for them, right? Like, they're not making this difficult. When they do blitz, it's super obvious. Like, I made the joke. They're running Madden defense out there. Like, legit Madden defense, where you know how you can't disguise nothing in Madden. It's just base. That's what they're running. It's straight up base defense. It is nothing but base. It's all about the base. It is pretty vanilla out there. And when you run vanilla in the NFL, you're going to get toasted. It don't matter how good your players are. Denzel Ward, Troy Hill, and John Johnson had horrible PFF grades this week. We know they're not horrible football players. We know all 3 of those guys are pretty good. Why is that? It's because they're being put in position to where either they don't agree with what's getting called, so they're like freelancing. This is causing all kind of problems in the secondary, or they're just in base all the time, and teams just know how to beat base because it's the NFL. It's not college football. You can't run base. But they won't get out of it. They won't get out of it. They're not. So I'm hoping that this week against a rookie or Andy Dalton, because if it's Andy Dalton out there and you run base, Andy Dalton's gonna look like Tyrod Taylor last week because he can eat up base. Like Andy Dalton's not great, but Andy Dalton is a serviceable NFL quarterback who can eat up base. So if they don't switch this up and disguise this defense to a point to where there is some confusion there on third down, on first down or second down, then it don't matter who's out there. They're going to get eaten up. That's the biggest thing. Everybody knows where the Browns are going to be on defense. So you could have Deion Sanders out there. They know where you're going to be. They're going to beat you. That's how the NFL works nowadays. So that's how Tom Brady, with all these mediocre guys he's had on his offense, has been able to stay relevant because he just knows where everybody's going to be at. So that's the biggest problem with the Browns right now. Their defense is extremely predictable, which is leading to some historically awful third down stuff right here. Against, when it's the Chiefs, whatever. When it's Tyrod Taylor and Davis Mills, come on, man. Davis Mills should not know where anybody is on your defense in his first game in the NFL on the road. And he out here deciphering your defense up because it's just that easy right now. Joe Woods needs to cut the leash loose and say, all right, we're going to get burnt a couple times. We're going to blow some coverages. We're going to learn with that. But we ain't going to be out here in regular, hoping that we going to hold our own, especially when you run in zone. You want to be in regular, just run man. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I don't get. You out here running zone, letting everybody know where you're going to be. Ain't no adjustment. What's John Johnson supposed to do if they're just going to be right there in the hole? Like, it's been frustrating to watch there. So, and Joe Woods don't really believe in man that much, so they're not going to man. They're not going to do heavy blitzing. It's just they're not really putting themselves in a good position here. And something's got to change here. Now, I'm not saying Joe Woods should get fired by any means. He's going to be here for the whole year. Like, that's nonsense. But, the philosophy has to get some sense of urgency in it right now because, you beat the Texans by 10 because you're just a much better team than the Texans. But you might not beat the Bears because the Bears are better than the Texans, or at least defensively they're better than the Texans. So they might cause you a little bit more problems, and you don't want to see how long this goes. You don't want to put Kyler Murray, even though I joke about how terrible of a coach Cliff Kingsbury is, he can decipher base. You know what I mean? He could do something with that, especially going to run zone on it. Like, he can do something with that. So, you got to do something. You got to disguise these coverages. You got all these versatile players. I will say, hey, Grant Delpit looked excellent. Looked like he's coming off that Achilles. Looked like 2018 Grant Delpit, right? You got some young guys. JLK looked excellent. Get them on the field. Let's disguise this up. Let's just learn I would rather this team go out being aggressive and blowing things, not games, but blowing coverages and giving up points that way, than to see them just get eaten up by 7 yards here, eaten up by 10 yards here, eaten up by 15 yards here, because everybody knows where they're at. Don't drag this out. Just try to get this figured out. Disguise some things. If you're not comfortable with it, oh well, run it. Get comfortable with it in the game because we've run out of time, like at this point. So I'm not trying to be here in week 10 talking about they're still in damn base versus Lamar Jackson, because it's going to be a disaster. Okay, you will be in base against Ben Roethlisberger. Like, is that really what we're gonna do out here? Joe Burrow gonna eat you up in base. Like, this is not what you want to do out here. So that has to change. If Joe Woods keeps doing this, my hair is gonna be gray by the end of the season. But Demetric Felton looked great. I thought the young guys, the first-year guys, looked great, right? JOK, Demetric Felton out here with a historic PFF grade, 3 snaps, 99, something ridiculous like that. He looks like he's going to be a big piece of this offense going forward. The tight ends played well. David Njoku continuing to look like the best tight end on the roster. I scoffed at that when people were telling me he might start over Austin Hooper coming out of camp. No, man. My bad. I was wrong on that one. But, the offense is the offense. They're going to be good. I'm not really worried about the output that they're going to put out there on a regular basis. If they need to put up 40, I feel like they can put up 40. But the defense, I don't know if they're going to be able to stop a team from putting up 45 if another team needs it, especially that team's good. Yeah. Because how are they making it difficult? If the players can only do so much in zone, right? Like, if we just, like, the Ravens run a lot of man. They don't really they disguise a lot, but they run a lot of man. And even then, if they don't disguise things, they can be okay because that's the personnel and they're just going to be a man. The Browns aren't running man. and they're never going to run man because Joe Woods don't run it. So it's a double problem that they're not disguising anything. You're just hanging them out there to dry, and it's going to make everybody look bad. So they need to figure that out. Hopefully they do. We got a super chat here from Josh C, who says, "Is it too much of an exaggeration to say that they don't have a Gronk or Kelsey? Like the Browns have a top 5 tight end room in the league."
Even though they don't, even though they don't have Gronk or Kelsey, they have a top 5.
I think that's a little premature. I don't know if Megan Trent all about the base. Yeah, dude, it's terrible. I saw like a couple. I was talking to Jake Burns, and we were talking about the defense, and we were like, man, they're just in base. Like it shouldn't be this easy to go on film and see what they're doing, right? Like you know how we had to decipher what the Steelers are doing. Okay, they're doing some disguises, they're hiding guys, they're doing some stunts.
Yeah.
Here. And the Browns are out here running Madden defense. You know where them 4 lines just go straight on the defensive
It's
line.
bad.
Like
No, man. And listen, everything you're talking about, man, it is giving, and I'm sure every Steeler fan will relate. It reminds me of the 2016 Steeler defense back when they had Sean Davis at safety, Artie Burns at corner. No one on that. You remember when guys would just run free on that Steeler defense? The communication issues.
Artie Burns, my favorite.
I'll tell you what, yeah, I mean, he absolutely should be because my goodness. And the problem is, Q, and this may be the issue, is that when you run zone like that, you know, you have to run zone differently against certain route concepts so that not everything looks the same. And, you know, for players, you can kind of overload them with too much information. You know, Artie was definitely that way. I remember there was a game against the Patriots on Monday night for the Steelers where they basically told Artie, like, you're in man the whole game. Okay, whatever we do, doesn't matter what the defensive call is. You just play man on your guy, and we'll get away with it. And that was the play, you guys remember this, where it was Hogan. Hogan was the most open receiver of like the last 10 years on that play because the Steelers were in cover 3, except Artie didn't know they were in. Artie didn't care if they were in cover 3. He was just going to cover his guy, right? So he didn't care. The zone behind him, don't care. I'm in man, baby. And Chris Hogan got more open than like any receiver in 10 years. So it's tough, man.
Yeah,
you know, when you have players like that where you don't trust the players to for certain assignments, that's a tough thing to overcome.
Well, and here's the thing. You paid so you can have that luxury of trusting these guys. So it's at this point, it's Joe Woods just being like, yeah, man, well, you know, it's only 2 weeks and I don't want to overload these guys. And it was like, Joe Woods, maybe you just need to simplify things. Maybe you just need to just slow it down, like run one thing. Like, I don't know what it is, but if we can't trust Denzel Ward in man coverage, what the fuck is he on the team for? You know what I mean? Like, why do you have
Well, he may not be the
Denzel
problem.
Ward? Yeah,
it's probably not him.
But you got Denzel Ward out here running this base zone. He getting a 36 PFF grade. He looked awful. But when he was, I'm saying just like when I saw
Minka has Patrick Queen grades right now. I mean, it's bad. It's bad out there in PFF.
I mean, he deserves it. But
it's bad right there. But also, you know, when they put Greg Newsome in man most of the time last week, he did fine. They put Denzel in man most of the time last week. Denzel looked excellent. It's like you got the players. You paid for the players to have the luxury that if it ain't clicking right now, you don't got to do what you did last year, which is run zone and have everybody pick on Andrew Sedale. Okay, you paid for that luxury. Use it. Like, you know, it ain't that difficult right now. Like the problems on third down are really of their own choosing right now because they're the coaching staff, and this is the complaint I've had about the team, they can be entirely, like we talked about living in their fears with the Bengals, the Browns can do that as well, where they just completely coach like they're living in their fears. They get up by 10, we ain't throwing another ball. We gonna run this ball. We don't want any turnovers to happen. Or, you know, and it's like sometimes you need to keep being aggressive. You need to keep that mindset going. And on defense, it's even worse because Joe Woods, I don't think he got an aggressive bone in his body to begin with. And when you tell him to put the gas off, oh my God, he come out there ready to run prevent in the third quarter. Like this is just it's really frustrating to watch, and it's unnecessary, right? Like Artie Burns is not out there for the Cleveland Browns. You have a first round pick in Denzel Ward out there. You have John Johnson, you paid a lot of money for, and you out here running defense like you got Artie Burns out here. Why are you doing this? Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense. And it's just fear that is dictating these decisions because he's scared to death that somebody's going to get beat deep. Well, you got to take that chance at some point. I don't care if somebody gets beat deep. Do something. Because if Tyrod Taylor picking you apart on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, well, we knew what Tyrod Taylor was when he was here. He wasn't somebody who was doing that, even though he's underrated. you have a problem on defense, and you play much better quarterbacks. All due respect to Tyrod Taylor in the AFC North than Tyrod Taylor. Okay, you got bigger problems ahead of you than Tyrod Taylor, and
Yep.
I can't even remember a single one of the Houston Texans wide receivers, but they was eating. They was eating.
Oh, Brandon Cook. Brandon Cooks.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, Brandon Cooks is legit good. Brandon Cooks is legit good. Let me not be disrespectful to Brandon Cooks, but Jake Brooks with the super chat. Andrew Berry low-key debating trading the first for Tyler Huntley. Is he going to play corner? Like, how did you watch that game and think that Baker Mayfield was the problem? I don't know.
Well, he's saying the Texans. The Texans are looking to trade for. He's joking, but yeah.
Oh, that's what he said. The Texans.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense here. Well, by the way, Tyler Huntley, it's really whack what you're doing right now. Stop catfishing people. I know you be going to the club telling people you play quarterback for the Ravens, and then they look up Lamar Jackson. Like, oh, that's you. That's you. It's the same hair. You know what I mean? Stop catfishing. That is a catfish move.
No way.
I saw Tyler Huntley do it. I was like, Tyler Huntley's a sucker. Out here with the sucker moves. Colt Linder with the $5 super chat. Crazy how Joe Woods had a great scheme against the Chiefs, but didn't care against a rookie QB. Well, I mean, the Davis Mills wasn't the game plan, but that makes it worse, to be honest, because Tyrod Taylor, if he has anything on his ledger as a quarterback, is he's really good against some. Not that great against man. And he went up there and was like, yeah, Tyrod Taylor, we're going to test you if you good at zone because we're just going to run base. We're going to run base zone at you, Tyrod.
But what happens if Tyrod doesn't go out, right? Because you guys beat the Texans by 10 and Mills comes in, right? But Tyrod Taylor was looking good, like legit good.
Yeah,
for a half. It wasn't like he was getting some lucky throws. And
I don't know, because they would have stuck with the same game plan and they would have put up points. Now, I trust that the offense, if they needed to put up points, they would have just put up more points and been a lot more physical at the point of attack with the football than they were being in that game. Once Davis Mills came in the game, we knew what that was. Like, you know what I mean? You let Davis Mills beat you, you shouldn't make the playoffs at that point. So we knew what that was there. So it's impossible to say. I think the offense would have been more aggressive. I think there would have been a sense of urgency, and the play calling would have been completely different there from Kevin Stefanski, because Kevin Stefanski, once he gets comfortable, like, this is a dude who told Nick Chubb to step out of bounds when he had like a 10-point lead instead of scoring the ball. Like, this is just how Kevin Stefanski is with the lead. He just gets kind of,
point shaving yourself.
Tight. He gets tight booty about it. He gets that lemon booty on him. But that's just how he is on that. But the Joe Woods, hey dog, I'm gonna just run a ton of zone and Tyrod Taylor. Like, the more I think about it, the angrier I get. And I'm trying not to be angry about it. But yeah, I mean, like, I can't excuse that game plan. Like, what was that? Like, and the more I look at the all 22, it's just like, yeah, man, this is really what they did. Base cover 6, base 2. Base 2 under. It's just the same. It's the same stuff. Like, not enough variety. And the one time they did have success was when they went to that dime package and they did some special things with Grant Delpit, had him blitz from the safety position. Cool, but it's few and far between, and it's way too few and far between. And it's time. Get JOK and Grant Delpit out here. I don't care if they make rookie mistakes. I really don't, because what I'm seeing right now, it's worse than rookie mistakes. So get them out there. But that's my thoughts on the game. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just say, I think Q, you hit the nail on the head there. I think the only thing that really jumped off on the screen in a negative way was just the defense. Like you said, Tyrod definitely was looking good. He had that weird play where it took a while for them to say that it was a touchdown. I don't know what was going on with the delay there. And then, Tyrod
that tackle
had a hamstring issue or something like that and goes out. And the one thing that I will say is that the Browns offense definitely stayed competitive in the game. They definitely leaned on those running backs. And I think, like you said, they found another running back to create kind of a three-headed attack and an interesting way to be able to use Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and now Felton that you can kind of use in the pass game. So I think that they tried to get back, like you said, once they got that lead, they wanted to run the ball. Nick Chubb had a great game, and they leaned on that. And then you get the rookie quarterback there, or I think he's a rookie. I don't know what he is. He comes in. The one thing that I will give credit to the Texans is they played a lot better than I think anybody expected in their first 2 games. I don't think anyone, expected them to be in these games, especially with so much roster turnover, to put together that roster that they have and to, score and do the things that they've done the last 2 weeks. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. So shout out to I think it's David Culley, the coach over there with the Houston Texans. But I think the Browns, at the end of the day, you play to win the game. The defense is definitely a concern, like Q was saying. Hopefully, with time, they get better. Hopefully, it's a chemistry thing, a scheme thing. But I think we've been talking about Joe Woods, at least I know Quincy has, for a while now. And I think those chickens are definitely coming home to roost, because you don't have the excuse now of there not being the talent there. And obviously, that's going to be one of the difference makers, I think, for Cleveland this season is definitely the defense. You already knew that the offense was there. You already know that they're going to put up points. You already know that they can score. It's about limiting your opponents and things like that. Now, the true test, I think, will be this defense against, obviously, Justin Fields. I think that'll let you know where you're at, because if you let Justin Fields do that kind of stuff, then it's just really a problem. But I think, like Quincy also said, adjusting to a completely different quarterback, the Bengals went through that. That's tough to do when you've been game planning an entire week for one guy. So I think the Browns took care of business, and I think it's just something to keep and monitor is just the performance of that defense going forward. But I think Becker and the guys came through and did their thing. The running backs did their thing. They got out of there with the W, as they should, and it's on next week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if they had a game plan for Tyrod Taylor. They're just gonna run base zone at Tyrod Taylor. It doesn't make sense. Abdul Sadiq here with the super chat. Defensive technique implemented versus defensive rosters. That's a good point here. When I talk about the Browns defense, it almost sounds like the same thing that Tony was saying about the Steelers offense last year, where they're just predictable and everybody knows where they're gonna be at, so it's kind of hard to move the ball on. It's kind of that same issue there. And then another super chat here from Marcus C. On the bright side, Cleveland's run defense looks solid. No, it don't. Then not in my opinion. It doesn't to me. But, I just didn't think the Texans, they had like 3.3 yards per carry against Jacksonville. I didn't think they were a good running team coming into it. I don't think the run defense has proven anything yet. I think Malik McDowell, he looks excellent.
Who's their runner? Who's the Texans runner now? It's not David Johnson. It's the other.
Mark Ingram.
It is David
Ingram.
Johnson.
Yeah,
is the
of course,
third string guy. They got Mark Ingram and they got Philip Lindsay. They got the 2018 All-Stars right now.
That's true.
Okay.
If this were 3 years ago, man, that's a Pro Bowl roster.
It's like the Ravens out here running legit with the 2016 All-Stars, and it looks good.
Hey, listen, running backs don't matter.
By the way, they were 4 deep on running back. Ain't no Le'Veon Bell. Just cut him already. You ain't gonna play.
Poor Le'Veon. I mean, it's torture. They're actually torturing Le'Veon, having him on that roster, but not putting him on the active roster and making him watch all his the guys his same age, go out there and play really well. Going back to this Browns game real quick.
Like Devontae Freeman ain't been in the NFL for like 2 years.
Exactly. Man, 2 years ago they paid me $50 million, put me in the game. Like, nah, we'd rather play Devonta Freeman on this one.
We're gonna see what Latavius Murray.
Yeah, we'll see what these guys still got left in the tank real quick. One thing on this game, I'm going to start I think what I'm going to do, it'll be a little meme here on the show, documenting poor coaching. We have another poor coaching to talk about later on, but I want to mention David Culley in this Browns game. I mean, this may top what John Gruden did at the end of that game with the Raiders and Ravens. David Culley and the Texans in this game, for those of you who didn't see it, had a 3rd and 15. There was a penalty called that would have made it 3rd and 10, and instead they declined the penalty and took 4th and 2, and then punted. I mean, this actually happened. The Texans had the opportunity to take 3rd and 10 or 4th and 2. They took the 4th and 2, which like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're going to go for it on 4th and 2. No, they're going to just punt it away. They could have had 3rd and 10.
Us on 3rd down all game.
What's happening?
The Browns wasn't doing nothing. It was butter on 3rd down all game. So you take 4th and 2, and you yeah. I don't know if we can beat this base cover 6. I don't know if we can beat this base cover 3.
That's how bad he must have thought Davis Mills was Davis Mills in that quarterback?
I think that might have been with Tyrod in the game. And
Tyrod in the game?
Second of all, Tyrod didn't have an incompletion at that point, and he did that. God. Because I saw them not take. I was like, damn, we got to give this up. They about to score, and he punted. I was like, okay, free win.
I mean, has there ever been a better evidence of tanking than this? I mean, this is like, this is what tanking. This is actual tanking. What it looks like is when you decide no, like they basically punted on. I mean, this is the equivalent of punting on 3rd down. They actually punted. It could have been 3rd and 10 for them. They decided no, we're gonna punt. We'll punt on 3rd down.
It's like you could have the soft, like the scared approach,
Listen.
or you could have the ballsy one, right? Take the less yards, 4th and 2, just go for it.
And they just
didn't do either. They didn't do either. Misfit Poacher here with the $10 super chat. I'm hoping the Browns defense can bounce back against the Bears. Odell will be back, so hopefully we see more chances for Baker to throw. I don't think the defensive issues will last for long. Well, man, for the sake of my sanity, I hope they don't last long here, because if they play against a real quarterback and they out here that predictable again, it might have that's going to make me have to take my shirt off at some point. Like, it's going to be that level of frustration, because it's like, come on, man. I don't know how you went against Tyrod Taylor and you think your game plan is going to be sound.
This one was supposed to be a cupcake win, and it nearly turned into Michigan App State. I mean, this would have been not good for Cleveland if they had.
It would have been a rough. I wouldn't be. Yeah. I would be like, oh man, I would have lied and said my plane's still in the air. Like, it would have been that level of bad. But yeah, is that it on the Browns? So I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the man of the hour. Told him to bring that
the chain gang
last week, because I was like, you lost to the Raiders, baby. You ain't got nothing to lose at this point. Everybody injured. What you gonna jinx? Brought that chain out. Watch Marcus Peters pop off an IR now. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to reverse. Should have brought the chain out a long time
ago. Just magically healed. I'm good.
Yeah.
He's like, yep, I'm good, man. So Sonny, man. What you got? Has the Bengals optimism pack burnt out yet? Nah, man. It's only week 2. They could bounce back and get a win next week, and then they're gonna be right back on that thing, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it don't take much at this point. It's got to take like 4-5 losses in a row. That's when you lose all the optimism, and it gets very grim. IRA Rememberly says Joey B, 3 interceptions, 1 pick 6. The defense was top 15 for sure. Yeah, that's not the unit they told me was going to be top 15, though. But,
take what you can get. You take what you can get.
Okay, let me. I have another receipt that I need to cash here. Somebody in this panel, I'm not gonna say name. You can go and do it if you want. Said LJ Lamar Jackson. For those of you who don't know, can't win the big game. On the 4th quarter, the back quarterback in the 4th quarter cannot come back.
A 2020 receipt.
We're cashing him in.
No. That's not a 2020 receipt.
That was last week. Yeah. I was an idiot, by the way.
You.
I said that last week. I know, and you know what's dumb. You know what's dumb about it is I forgot. I'm an idiot because he won the poop game last year. He literally won the poop game last year. He literally came back in the 4th quarter, won the poop game. No, I'm an idiot. This one I deserve, because this was a very bad take on my part. Literally, not only can he literally has already won this game before.
Yeah,
so yes, this one I'll take a giant L on.
But last
and then he also won the game against the Titans too.
Yeah.
Well, the Titans I think was more about. I don't want to relitigate the playoff game because we talked about it at the time. I think it was more about the defense. But again, I want this is Sonny's time. Go ahead.
Lamar carry. Not only that, double digit twice in the 4th quarter. He eventually brought us back all the way and won. Look, this is a game of. You know how usually you say this is a game of 2 halves, right? You heard that before. No, this is a game of a quarter and 3 quarters for the Ravens. Not for the Ravens, especially for Lamar Jackson. First drive, pick six. He shouldn't throw that ball, but also at the same time, Sammy Watkins fell, right? So the ball was coming to Sammy Watkins, but if you saw the play, at least from my vantage point, he saw, or Sammy Watkins looks to fall before he throws the ball. I think he was hoping he recovered the ball. Yeah. So if he still wanted to throw that ball should have been low. Just throw it low, threw it high. Obviously, pick 6, bad throw. And then second drive, he drives the team back, touchdown. He scored a touchdown. Then the third, it was worse. Like in the first one, you can, even though it was a pick 6, you're like, the guy failed, blah blah blah. Some people might argue. He threw it before Sammy. Again, I saw him throwing after Sammy fell. But the second interception, there's no excuse. Hollywood was double cut.
That was terrible.
Yeah, he was getting bracketed from my vantage point. He was getting bracketed, and then Tyrann Matthew was like playing. It looked to me was too deep. Tyrann Matthew was looking from the other side, and he was reading Lamar looking at Hollywood, right? And he just goes easy pick. It was easy pick. And the funny part is, one of the very few videos that I actually saw, like all 22 from the behind the scenes. Hollywood was bracketed, and Matthew was also playing high. The rest of the receivers looked to be open. You had Duvernay over there playing like a hitch route on the side. You had Mark Andrews, I think it was in the middle of the field, also open. Sammy Watkins also was open. And he decided to throw it to the guy that was not open, pick, right? So after that, man, I'm like, damn it, we're losing 14-7, effing Chiefs. And then Pat Mahomes was looking good, right? But no, Lamar Jackson said, F this. F this. He started making play after play, not only in the running, because everybody's going to talk about his running side. He threw the ball well. After that, Hollywood Brown had a hell of a game, really, really strong game. Sammy Watkins had a forgivable game, in my opinion. But Mark Andrews, which last week he did not play particularly well, this week he went back to being Mark Andrews. And look, if you see that defense looked like they were, at least at the beginning of the game, they were keying on Mark Andrews. And I'm expecting that from teams, right? Mark Andrews usually is your best receiver for the Ravens. They're keying on Mark Andrews. Give me a second. I'm sick and my throat is killing me. But Lamar Jackson was finding the receiver. And not only that, look, before the game, I said the Ravens have a chance of winning this game. Go back to basics. They need to go back to basics, run the ball how they used to with misdirections. They did not do that against Oakland. They were running the ball against Oakland more conventional. Nah, they went back to basics. And Alejandro Villanueva, which shout out to him, he played well, and Macari, right tackle. And for those Steelers fans that told me, oh, well, we look at our defense. Our defense wasn't healthy. Well, the Ravens went to this game with 4 healthy corners. We lost our free safety. We had to move one of those corners to free safety, a rookie that has never played as a safety. But Ravens drafted him to eventually be a safety. Boom. And he didn't have a good game. Those 2 touchdowns, bad angles from that free safety position. But we lost it. And then we also lost our nose tackle. Brandon Williams left the game in the second half. Defense fought back. I mean, I'm not saying the defense played great, but they fought back, especially in the fourth quarter. Odafe Owe, put some respect into that man's name, including myself.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I own that one.
Are we ready, by the way? Are we ready to retire sacks as a statistic to measure performance? Are we ready?
Sure. Look.
Oh, we did it.
Odafe Owe, that pick on Patrick Mahomes is essentially the same as Baker, but worse. Like Baker at least he was like, I was gonna throw it in, like outside, throwing away.
Mahomes both learning a good lesson there, right?
Yeah. Odafe Owe put the pressure. It was a sack. Like if you go watch there's a picture that when Patrick Mahomes was throwing that ball, like when he released, he was an inch from the ground. Like it was almost a sack, but it was better because it was a pick. And then obviously making the clutch play with the fumble. Oh, but what I was going to say for the O-line, when your O-line is struggling, right, and Stanley also out in this game, and Alejandro Villanueva, he was there, going back to basics, we were pulling the left tackle like we used to do. We were pulling everybody, so they didn't know, like the Chiefs were like, what the F are we doing here? Like they had no idea. And by the way, I thought the rest were fairly good, but that 2-point conversion they took away from us, that was a hard pill to swallow. That illegal man, whatever you call that. But look, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. I will say Lamar Jackson carried this team. He pulled the team in a hole because 2 things are fair, and then he carried the team. Now I will say this because I know Tony cannot wait to talk about the timeout situation in the second half, and it was bad. No. I'm trust me. You. My take on this game is to be very different than you think. Okay, so the timeout situation was bad. I for the life of me, I cannot remember what was the first timeout, but the second timeout, Lamar got upset with Harbaugh because he was like, "I was gonna sack the ball." Harbaugh was like, "Oh, I wasn't sure. It's a critical possession. Let me call the timeout." But at 4th and 1, look. We fall short, and I did not like the play call. I'm going to say that I was not a fan of the play call. And right now, Ravens fan, and I said this before, every time, if for all AFC North fans here, every time works or not, I don't care if it works or not, I hate the play that I'm sure everybody here has a play that they hate with passion of their team. The play for me that I hate the most is the effing rolling pocket to the right. And for the life of me, I cannot get it. You are basically cutting your in half. Lamar can roll to the right. I don't care about that. But when you roll the pocket, everybody's rolling with him to the right. I hate that play. I hate it a lot. But anyway, 4th and 1, it was a gutsy play call. And I was like, you have to go for it. But for me, it was like, it's going to be hard count. That was my first, it's going to be hard count. The 4th and 1, the Ravens have a timeout, right? So they can try hard count. And if it doesn't work, timeout. And then they just win. And as soon as they set up, they snapped the ball. And I was shocked. Like, holy shit, they snapped the ball. But they snapped it on shotgun. So now it's not 1 yard. Now you're talking about 3.5 yards so you have to gain. But again, all-line push.
Did you want them to go for it in that spot, or you wanted them to punt?
I was debating. To be honest, there, Sonny, almost 5 a.m. I'm looking at the game like, go for it for the hard count. Yeah. And then call timeout. That was it. And then recruit. But when I saw the play, the play was called, I was like, holy shit, no, not that. Not that. Put him on the center, right? Yeah. And then fake it. Like, you know how that touchdown, the easy touchdown? Mm-hmm. That play, I have been wanting that play for a while. Play action it, and then Lamar goes wide, and one-on-one against somebody, I'll take my chances. But shout out to them. They called the play power QB, and it worked. Big W for the Ravens. And I think that the coaches knows, look, this defense is playing on like fumes right now, right? After losing the safety. If you see that game, and that last drive that the Chiefs had was boom, boom, 2 big plays, right? Because, again, they're running with 3 corners, healthy corners, and a safety that is a corner playing safety. So they went bang, bang. And then the Chiefs said, like, oh, my God, we're already in field goal range. Let's just run the ball and burn this clock. And, again, Olave comes with a big fumble sack. Great game. Great victory for the Ravens.
Huge.
I was loving it.
Huge.
Okay.
Yeah,
we have some super chat here. Let's go to super chat real quick here.
Yeah, Melvin Groom with the $5 super chat. Hollywood Brown is the best receiver in the AFC North, and stats back that up since he's been in the league.
Q, something's wrong with your mic. Maybe your mic. I don't know. Something's wrong with your mic, Q.
Yeah.
Hold on. 1 second. But somebody.
I'll go with the other super chat. I have a theory about the Chiefs. They play worse when they are ahead rather than down early. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I think
like Andy Reid's bad coaching actually helps them. They need to start slow in order for Mahomes to get going. He's like Popeye. He needs to be behind. Be behind. That's his spinach.
Okay, Ace, you can take it over, Ace.
I think LJ must have been listening to the Tupac Against All Odds album before this game happened, because undermanned, cross-country, on a short week, the Baltimore Ravens showed up. And when we went into this game previewing it, I said, as long as you have Lamar Jackson, you will always have a chance to be able to contend with the Chiefs in this game, because it really just comes down to the quarterbacks. I thought it was kind of funny that Lamar came out earlier in the week and said, this isn't about me or Pat Mahomes. I'm like, that's what this is exactly about, is about, Pat Mahomes versus LJ. And I think the offensive line, we didn't expect them to play like that. They definitely played a lot better in this game. LJ did have the mistakes early with the interceptions, but bounces back. I think he also did a good job of ball security on those runs, making sure that he didn't, give away any fumbles or anything like that. So I expected the Ravens to compete in this game, and I think that they went in and they were themselves. Some teams, when they play the Kansas City Chiefs, they try to go away from their style of play. I will say on defense they did that, because normally they usually blitz and stuff like that. They didn't blitz on that end, but offensively they were the Ravens. They did what they like to do. They ran the ball. And I think that Kansas City just was not ready for it. And I think that they were able to sneak one in. And I was worried at first, because when you give the Chiefs the ball back at the end of the game. Obviously, we know they can score on one play. We saw it. We've seen it all of the time. That was what I was thinking. I was like, I don't know if they should have done that, because we all know how easy it is for Pat Mahomes to go down the field. And then the fumble happens, right? And so I think other teams are now going to have to think about, okay, yeah, I might not want to give the Chiefs back the ball with this much time, but anything is possible and anything can happen. And I think that the Ravens just went in, ended up getting a big victory. And I think, they talk about 0-2. That's the death sentence. The Ravens have dodged that bullet, and I think that they're still going to compete in this AFC North division. I don't think that they're done yet by any means, because as long as they have Lamar Jackson, they will always have a chance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's my takeaway too. I think Sonny brought up a great point. I paused that interception like 4 or 5 times to figure out if Lamar had time to see Watkins fall. It was one of them bang things, but I think he did have enough time to just kind of pat it down and not throw that ball. And the weird thing is he kind of threw it high too in a way, which you see him on the ground, you really shouldn't throw that ball there. So that's a mistake on his part. And then also the second interception was awful, right?
Oh.
And I think, it was I heard somebody try to I think on the broadcast, they're like, well, Tyrann Mathieu confused them there and made him think he was going to go on the other side. But what about the other 2 corners that he threw that ball at? All right, because it was triple covered, bracketed, and everything there.
Yeah,
it's almost a mistake why Tyrann Mathieu's even there to begin with if somebody else gets open. But he threw it right into his hand, so it ends up not being a thing, right? But yeah, those 2 interceptions, awful, right? And I think the narrative on Lamar it should be different than what it is, right? And this isn't a slight on him, but I think people get in their mind he can't pass. He's not a good passer. I don't think that's accurate. I think what people see is that he's a little bit of a streaky pocket passer, because when he's on, he's pretty good in the pocket, to be honest with you, right? Like a lot of what he did to come back in that game, obviously it's aided by the threat of him running, but it's also aided by his ability as a pocket passer. I mean, he done did the Pookie Scoot multiple times at this point to where I can't even write it off as just a random play that he
jump past TV.
Yeah, the Pookie Scoot works. So I hope that becomes a thing too, that people just start calling it the Pookie Scoot. I hope the guy one day, Sonny, you watch him do that and you're like, Pookie Scoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pookie Scoot works. And he's a streaky pocket passer, right? He'll have stints where bad throw here, interception here that's inexcusable, but then he'll have streaks where he comes back from it. And honestly, this is as close as a one-on-one basketball game in football that I've ever seen. It did not feel like both defenses were on the field at some points. It felt like it was Patrick Mahomes truly against Lamar Jackson. It was very entertaining to watch. And I think it's time we give Lamar Jackson that respect, that he's one of those guys. Look, not every quarterback in the NFL, they don't need to be this, and not every single one are them, where if you ain't got nothing, you got him. Right. I do believe, even though Patrick Mahomes has always had talent around him, you look at some of the throws Patrick Mahomes be out here making, he could do that with a lot of other guys, right? It don't got to be Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. It just helps that it is. Tyreek Hill, not Tyreek Hill, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, 2 quarterbacks that if they ain't got nothing, they got themselves. And that's something. That means something. Now, I don't know ultimately how many wins that gets the Ravens. I don't know how far that gets the Ravens, because you can only rely on him to carry the team so much in the NFL. So I don't know if that ultimately gets them to the playoffs or gets them first place or gets them here or there. But when they got Lamar, you got a shot. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things. He deserves that respect. Look, we can argue all day about who the best quarterback in the AFC North is, but the one thing we know for a fact is that Lamar Jackson, if you know for a fact that if the Ravens ain't got nothing but they got Lamar Jackson, you aren't going to feel comfortable counting them out. Every other quarterback in the AFC North, Baker Mayfield included, you don't feel that same way about, right? When Baker had the Jets out there with no wide receivers last year, we weren't talking about, well, they got Baker, right? We weren't talking about how Baker's going to win that game. And he did not win that game. Lamar Jackson, in that situation, you feel a lot differently about it, because if you ain't got nothing else, you got Lamar Jackson. I know Browns fans ain't going to like to hear that. That is the truth. Lamar Jackson is a great talent. And I think people should stop talking about what he can't do and start talking about what they're going to do about what he can, because nobody has an answer for that, right? Nobody. Everybody talks about Lamar like it's easy. Let's force him to pass. Force him to pass. He's not that bad. If he has a good game from the pocket, what you going to do about that? You know what I mean? Like it's really at that point to where, it's like Giannis, right? Everybody was focusing on Giannis's jumper, Giannis's free throw. He can't do that. He can't do this, to the point that they convinced themselves that man wasn't good. And then what happened? He just did what he needed to do, right? And nobody could do nothing about it. That's the point where Lamar's at. And the more that the Ravens offense and the coaching staff understands that's what they have there, because sometimes they like to go away from it, the more they're going to win there, and especially once they get healthy there in Baltimore. So that was a big moment for Baltimore. I hope they understand that, hey, just do what you do, because it don't matter if everybody else telling you, if everybody else telling you, oh, it's too predictable, it's too one-dimensional, can't nobody stop it. So, it don't matter how one-dimensional it is at that point, right? Misfit Culture here with the $5 super chat to add to that, Ace. The Chiefs have been bad against the run. They've allowed more than 150 yards on the ground game. Now, that's not fair to the Chiefs, because they played literally the Browns and then
1
the
and 2.
Ravens.
1 and 2.
like, it is not a fair barometer.
It's tough go.
But I get what you're saying there. It's just tough competition right there for the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Professor Chaos with another $5 super chat says, hey, Sonny, how worried are you that LJ flipped in the end zone?
To be honest, I was celebrating so much after the fact. I was like, shit, he needs to be careful. I don't want him to get hurt or something stupid like that. But yeah, man, I couldn't yell because everybody was sleeping, right? So I was doing one of those silence yells, like, fuck yeah, right? But yeah, I was celebrating my dog because, again, everybody else was sleeping in the house.
It was a lot of these.
Yeah. When the fumble happened, look, I lost my voice once in a scream, and that was when CJ Mosley intercepted Baker. I lost my voice for 3 days straight. I couldn't talk. But obviously, I can't do that here because of the time. Next week, me and my girls have been like, Bobby, when can we watch this game? Well, next week. But yeah,
they're finally not playing at 8.
It's at 6 p.m. here. 6 p.m. here.
There you
instead of 1 in the morning. So
that's good.
I'm excited to watch that game with the family. But yeah, man, I was super excited. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those that you're celebrating and then you're like, shit, he shouldn't do that. But whatever. Let the man celebrate.
I mean, this was absolutely this was the Lamar Jackson show. This was an incredible. I mean, I was tweeting during the game, like, I actually can't believe what I'm watching, because, like, we talked about all the injuries that this team had and everything they were going through, right? And we were talking about, like, I mean, we basically, like, on Thursday's show last week, I mean, it was like pseudo eulogy for the team. Like, well, they're probably going to get blown out, and we'll see what happens from there. Look, you guys have all said, how great Lamar was in this game, and you there are not, again, we can't be hyperbolic enough about Lamar Jackson and his performance in this football game, especially because of how it started, right? I mean, like, I think the adversity they had to face early in this game, missing Hollywood on the deep ball, missing Sammy Watkins on the deep ball on the first one, then throwing the pick six, right?
No, it was Hollywood.
Was it Hollywood on the deep ball on the first one?
Yeah,
okay.
I forgot to mention that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this game started with, like, missed touchdown, pick six, and then threw another pick later in the game. And I mean, he came back from that. I mean, not rattled whatsoever. I mean, you would have never known it from his play after that, right? Not rattled whatsoever. I do think, though, we do need to talk about. We talked about the coaching before. We talked about this on Thursday's show, right? How much this coaching staff kind of got out of their rhythm in last year's game was a big part of why this Ravens team did not win this game a year ago. I think this might have been, like, Greg Roman gets a lot of crap on this show as the Ravens offensive coordinator. This was a Greg Roman masterpiece of a game plan. The one thing about this game that kind of shocked me is the game plan here was to attack the edges, right? I mean, literally attack the two edges of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have made a big deal this year about, hey, we're moving Chris Jones to edge this year, right? He's going to be an edge for us.
He did not know what to do.
He had, not only did he know what to do, I mean, modern edges, right? Jason Owe ran like a 4.3 40, right?
Yeah,
I mean, modern edges don't move like an interior defensive lineman. Chris Jones is pretty athletic for an interior defensive lineman. Chris Jones is not a modern edge rusher, and they were running at him and trying and reading him. Absolutely. I mean, it was such a great game plan. And then the other thing I talked about last week, look, you're going to have this offensive line that you don't really trust, right? How do you put Lamar Jackson in an offense where you don't want him to have to take a lot of 5 and 7 step drops because you don't trust the offensive line to block for him for that long, but you also want to let him be able to be Lamar. And they designed, all those jump pass. People kept talking about the jump pass. He's doing these jump pass all game. But that was a designed RPO type of play where it was a single read for Lamar. Hey, look, if that throw is there, go to it. Otherwise, run. Right. And that design from Roman made Lamar Jackson's time to throw in this season go down from 3 seconds. He was the worst in the league last year in time to throw, or last week, I should say. 3 seconds, over 3 seconds time to throw last week. This week, down to just 2.75 seconds per throw. And it's because I think Greg Roman and this coaching staff understood, look, we have to put Lamar in a situation where he has the option to get rid of the ball when the offensive line isn't blocking for him. But don't let him. We want to let him be himself. And I thought that was spectacular. The Chiefs had absolutely no answer to it. The only thing I was shocked by is I thought with as horizontal as they were going in this game, right? And you saw the Chiefs have so many problems. I mean, their linebacking core is awful. They can't. I mean, we talk about sideline to sideline linebackers. I mean, the Chiefs do not have one of those guys. They could not beat the edges. And I thought that would mean the safeties have to come back down, and eventually the Ravens would finally nail one of those deep balls, being over the top. Never really happened in this game. So one surprise I had, but they didn't need to, because in that last drive, I mean, they killed them with the same stuff they've been doing all game. I do want to talk about the defense real quick, because like if the Steelers lost and the way the Steelers lost, right, the defense kind of letting them down at the end was kind of a dagger to Steeler fans. Watching what the Ravens did on Sunday night was like a little bit of a dagger, like the twisting of the knife. There was a little twist of it. Because, you guys talk about the fumble. The fumble's a great play. Now, people will talk about fumble luck and all of that. Look, fumble luck is a thing when it comes to recovering fumbles. Forcing fumbles is not luck. The Ravens led the league in forced fumbles last year. That is something they coach. Something the Steelers coach, right? And the great turnover teams coach these things, attack the football. So credit to the Ravens, credit to Odafe Owe for making that play. But I got to tell you something, that what happened on the possession before, I thought was just as big a play as the fumble recovery, or is it the forced fumble? Anthony Averett's play on Tyreek Hill was spectacular. And we talk about, injuries are going to set a team back. Look, this Ravens secondary lost Marcus Peters. This is a reserve corner in Anthony Averett going up against one of the best wide receivers in the game in Tyreek Hill. And he made a phenomenal play on a 3rd and 10 when the Ravens absolutely had to get off the field in that situation. If the Ravens convert, if Averett is not able to cover Hill on that play, if that pass is completed and the Chiefs continue that drive and potentially go up 12 at that point, 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, we are probably talking about a different result today. That was a huge play, and a huge play because of who it was, because it was Anthony Averett, because it was a reserve corner for this football team going out there and making a play in a huge moment against a quality player. Then the last thing I want to talk about here is coaching here, and this is the 4th and 1 call. Again, we want to talk about the twisting of the knife. After we Steeler fans had to watch Mike Tomlin once again punt on 4th and 1 in a late situation. Okay, the Steelers are down in this football game by 2 scores. They got to have points in the fourth quarter. There's 8 minutes to go, and they are 4th and 1. You cannot punt. And we saw this in the playoff game a year ago, right? When the Steelers had a chance to cut it to 1 score against Cleveland, and they punted, and the Ravens went down and scored. I mean, what I love about John Harbaugh is that he understands. John Harbaugh, I mean, this was not a stray. I gave this one to myself, Quincy. What I love about John Harbaugh and why he is such a great
I didn't
coach.
do it to you when you was talking about Dan Cully. I was like, I'm going to let that straight fly.
No, this is the frustrating part about watching Mike Tomlin, right? Is again, you just have to trust the numbers in this one, right? I understand that, some people will tell me, the results-oriented folks out there will say, well, Tony, the Raiders did punt after that. Sure, the Raiders did punt after running 2.5 minutes off the clock and the Steelers burning a timeout. What John Harbaugh understands is that when the numbers say go, you go. Right? I know he asked Lamar Jackson, do you want to go here? Harbaugh was always going. And Harbaugh, by the way, went for it on 4th and 1. We thought Steeler fans like it's too dangerous to go in that situation. If the Ravens don't make it, the Chiefs go down and win that football game. There's no doubt, right? Everyone here can agree. If that 4th down call is not converted, the Ravens blew that lead. They don't care. They absolutely don't care. They knew that the numbers said, go for it. You go in those situations. Tomlin's got to learn from this. I mean, look, it was a bad call on Sunday for Tomlin to continue to be the kind of coach who late in football games when this offense needs to have points, and he's saying, no, I trust my defense. I'm going to punt on these 4th and 1 situations. A credit to John Harbaugh. I thought this was a Lamar Jackson masterpiece, but this was also a real coaching masterpiece from Harbaugh and from Greg Roman.
Let me say this before I go to the super chats. Another thing that we did that I forgot to mention, because the defensive plan was completely different. If I ask you guys what the Ravens do, as Ace mentioned this, we usually just blitz the hell out of teams.
Yeah, cover zero, baby.
Patrick Mahomes has killed us in the past with that. They did not blitz, but not only they did not blitz, I'm not saying that they were producing the pressure as the Steelers produced pressure, but there's a new site. There was actually some plays that they produced pressure, and that was a breath of fresh air, right? I was like, yo, this is really good. This is needed. Let's go through a couple super chats we have here. I think Colin Cowherd said it best yesterday. If we replace QB with playmaker, he's a top 3. Let's drop the category and give Lamar Jackson the credit for what he is. Shout out to Tyler.
Oh, come on, man.
Oh, here we go. This is what we really need to talk about today.
No,
the Heineke Hive is strong here on AFC North Talk.
Swarming.
This is bad. This is terrible.
I'll tell you what. For those of you still in our eliminator game, thank you so much for playing. I'll tell you what. You guys know I was a Heineke guy, never in doubt last week as the Washington team
pimple on
soundly defeated the New York Giants thanks to the spectacular play of Taylor Heineke.
Okay, AFC North. And AFC North looking very sweepable.
Never in doubt, Quincy.
Ravens, LL. Yeah, I said it. Okay, the confidence. I like the confidence.
Well, Raven fans are back. They were gone last week. They are.
The one thing I will say is it looks like the Raiders have a potential sweep for the AFC North. They look like the best team in the AFC North right now.
Yeah, they look alive.
They look good.
They'll blow up by the end of the year.
They might. Tanya says, Sonny, how about everyone saying Orlando Brown trade was terrible? We got Odafe for that pick, and he was key player to seal the game. Shout out to you, Tanya. Tanya always keeps me honest. I'm one of those, and I will still sustain to that day. The trade value for Orlando Brown, I still don't understand it. Right? I still am baffled. Now, ironically, the play that Odafe Owe made was against Orlando Brown. He beat Orlando Brown and he produced the fumble. So that is very ironically. But I still think, I mean, you could say that, the players that we got for Orlando Brown, you like it, right? That's fine. I will still sustain that the value you got for a trade for a 26-year-old Pro Bowl tackle cannot be this, let's swap a bunch of picks.
I have a question for you, Sonny. I have a question for you. We talk about quarterback controversies a lot. When a backup comes in and plays better, and then all of a sudden, we have this controversy. Big Al on the left side over there, didn't look so bad. Certainly was better in this game. When Ronnie Stanley's healthy, are we sure we're putting Ronnie Stanley back in there? Maybe they want to ride with Big Al for the rest of the season. I mean, you can't argue with the results. Ronnie Stanley has never beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
For a right tackle.
Listen, Ronnie Stanley has never beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
Okay, let me say this. What happened last week, other than Ronnie Stanley it's probably one of his worst games since rookie year, right? He didn't look healthy, and he's going to be out for a couple weeks. But they went again. My whole point was, even with a right tackle, if they would have played this offensive game against the Raiders, that game, in my opinion, would have been different. They went more like, oh, let's just try to pass the ball more. Let's drop back, blah, blah, blah. No, especially when your O-line is not ready for that. No, you run at them. That would have helped Alejandro Villanueva a lot last week. This week, again, in my opinion, I set up a pregame, just go back to basics. We'll go back to 2018. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, any more super chats?
No, that's it.
We're good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this 2-hour edition of AFC North Talk.
It's a shorter one today.
Thursday. I don't know if I'm going to be on there. We'll be back on Thursday, because my flight returns on Thursday. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But have fun, y'all.
Have you ever? Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.